We're on the air.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'll do the invocation this morning, if that's okay with everyone. Is it okay?
Absolutely.
You're the president.
Yes, sir. God wants to hear from you.
Pray with me, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time that we have here this morning, the safe journeys that we had to come here, the good health that we enjoy. Father, we ask now that as we work together on important issues for our community and for our club, that you'll be with us, that we're attentive to the program this morning, that we learn good things from that. And as always, Father, we thank you for the gift of your Son, Jesus, our Savior. Amen.
Amen.
Good morning, Rotarians.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Hi, Wayne.
Good morning.
Let's have a cup.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. All right.
Good morning, Wayne.
Good morning, Steve. All right. We have to put another dollar out.
Oh,
Thank you, sir. I need one more. All right. First of all, we have a guest that will be introduced just shortly, and we're glad to have you with us. And our invitee or inviter for the program is not here, I don't believe, is he? I'm not sure. Madam Roseland?
That fine's probably growing by the minute.
It is growing, so I've got to work on that one. All right, a couple items of business this morning. Ron Leach, is the perimeter secure this morning?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yes, I've checked it out well.
Okay.
I had my flashlight in hand, so if any intruders were here, I took care of them.
All right, good deal. It's covered. All right, you have to put your dollar in for Richard?
Yes.
Okay, please do. Jake still needs the food. All right, anything good for Rotary? First question, anything that you want to bring up for Rotary? Michael, you said something that you wanted to say something, right?
I do.
Okay.
Okay. I was trying to remember that guy's name down there. Thank you, Johnny Vandetti.
Yep, Vandetti.
Junior Vandetti.
Yes.
What's his name?
Junior Vandetti.
Junior Vandetti. Okay, because you know we have a Rotarian that's Rick Vandetti.
Yes.
And he was coming by my office.
Yes, sir.
And big old sign, y'all in my office?
Yeah.
Big sign, Dr. Mike. Okay, that's my name. So I asked him to come by, and he was coming by. I can't remember what, because I was so distraught, I forgot what it was all about. But then he
You mean the Senate candidate?
I got a phone call. I don't
I'm trying
know.
to find out if you're talking about Richard, that Senate candidate.
Okay, I don't know.
Okay,
But it was
check.
going down the road, so I get a phone call. And he's at the hospital or somewhere else, and said, I can't find your office. I know where your office is, I can't find it. So then I call him, get on the phone. I don't know what he's doing, riding a horse. So he went down the other way. Then I go outside, stop all my patients. Don't do patients. Don't do a thing. I go outside, stand in the road, and it's really dangerous, waving my hand. He looks and says, Mom, he looks down the road. I still don't see you. Waving his hand, then he gets right there, almost hit me. And then he says, oh, I see the office. And it looked like that guy right there. And actually, he was gracious, though.
Was he?
At the end, he said he would have paid a $5 fine. He said, don't even worry about voting on it. He just automatically get $5.
That's why he can't find his sign.
All right.
And he said he wasn't going to talk about it. He said just go get $5.
Okay, your conscience be your God. I think.
Change, all I have is 20.
All right.
All I have to give Richard 20. That have any one.
All right, I can change it for you.
Rick, I've got a
Trust me, I've
question.
got it. Yeah.
Is it the truth?
Most of it is the truth, actually, except I didn't come close to running him over. I was bringing him, I was
Give him his
taking
20
to
back.
him baseball tickets from Crawdad. Okay. He said a lot of his assistants wanted tickets, and I, sure enough, I'm going north on Fairgrove Church Road, and I see a big word said dentist. He's on the left side. His office is exactly across the street from that one,
Yep.
but I didn't look to the right. And so he said he would make sure people remember it.
Fairgrove Road, East and
All right, let's go ahead.
No, it doesn't. No, sir.
I'm in
enough trouble already.
All right.
There's your
Dan
change.
Green has provided some advice to me, and I think probably we will take it. And as Glenn is not here, so I'm not sure what the deal is with Glenn. But anyway, Dan talked with me, why? and the issue between Glenn and Richard, and Dan used a quote, and he said, we might ought to back off. And then he said, the more you stir it, the thicker it gets. So I'm not sure what that question of what it meant. So at this,
It's an old legal documents from the.
That's one of those legal
Richard, we're gonna give it a break and see if it'll work out. So we don't want to stir it anymore. I think it's been stirred enough. So we're gonna see what happens. Okay, the question is this, and gee, Ron Leach, I just directly at you. Okay. Phil just came from a meeting, which was the president-elect's meeting that they had in Tennessee, awards and all this. Our new district governor for 7670, what is his name? Do you remember?
The current or incoming, the one that's just getting ready to take
Yeah,
over?
June the 16th, I believe.
I believe it is the Rotary Governor.
The Rotary Governor. All right, they need $1 from that. Jenny, you're the second one on this. I need a question. Can you identify the new district governor? Now, he has been to our club.
That's right. Oh, yeah. Oh, you'll never forget.
Now, that's the big clue right there. Big clue.
Right there.
I'm gonna have to join Ron's dog.
He's gonna make more money for the club than anybody here.
All right.
Are you getting close to 15?
I'm trying to get all this stuff. I'm working on it. Okay. All right. We won't go ahead and spend too much time on this, but Phil, would you mention the new governor-elect, which will be June the 16th? Okay. Reinhardt.
Yes, yes.
That's what his name?
Governor-elect, the DGE, because Rotary is all about little initials like that, is Isaac.
Olowabi. Olowabi.
Olawabi.
No,
No reason nobody could remember it.
Anyway,
You won't remember, you won't remember it.
You may have to spell it before it's over with.
That's a
Anyway,
good Catawba County name.
he's not from around here.
he will, okay, he is not from here. Okay, two questions quickly, and I know you do this each time. You look at the Rotarian magazine,
Absolutely.
and you study this. Okay, the April issue had some really, really fine articles in here, and I'll relate to this. But I need to find out.
Whoa!
He's not pouting.
Glenn, we're glad to see you. I will have to tell you, Dan has suggested that we let everything cool off. And the question the statement he said is the more we stir it, the thicker it gets. So we decided to hold off on this. Okay, so I'm gonna give you this decree. Oh gosh. All right, here we go. Now, the Rotarian magazine, April, great article. All I want to know on the front cover, what is the issue on the front? What is it on the front cover? This morning I had an incident, and I'll come back to it. One Rotarian came in and took all the name tags and just mixed them all up. Okay, that was the issue. He paid it fine. He still was upset, came in and poured coffee all over my book. All of this. And I can't get over it. Okay, Steiger, what is on the front cover? Now, this is your issue to redeem yourself. That's all it is. April's issue. What's on the front cover? Ink. Ink.
That's good. It is.
It's ink, but that's not what we're looking for.
Excuse me,
Yes, sir.
it's not ink, they now do that digitally, it's toner.
All right, see?
Who's that, John?
All right. Let me ask one, don't take my dollar back. All right. The question's this, let's see, where's Gavin?
He's hiding under the radar.
All right. Okay, first of all, anyone know what's on the front issue, front page, April?
The date.
Trees.
The date.
Plant a tree.
excellent article about
Green
trees.
Toner.
Okay, if you haven't read it, it's really good. And Rotarian's got an article about what clubs have done planting trees.
Green tone with a date.
Last question. And this is, Gavin, have you read this?
Cover to cover.
Okay. Excellent articles about trees. All right, on page 49 of this
Oh my
book.
goodness.
What is the name of the tree?
The name of the tree on,
Yep, page 49, yes.
Jack Pine.
Billy Bob.
He's the one playing the Jack and Jane stuff.
One of my favorite.
Yes, sir. All right.
We naming trees now.
Okay, folks, he's ready. Jack Pine is the tree.
All right.
Gavin, congratulations.
It's one of my favorite trees. I lucked out. I love that tree.
All right, good deal. One other thing. Ian brought this in. Chris Sigmer, his wife, and it's dated August the 7th, 2009. It's a picture of our club. And we'll pass it around for everybody to see how you look in August of 2009.
Everybody's got hair.
Yeah. All right, that's it.
Thank you so much for a fine introductory experience for this morning for us. I can assure you, coming from the district conference in Kingsport, Tennessee, we never saw any activity like we've just seen here for the last 8 or 9 minutes. It is truly remarkable what goes on in our club. I will be bringing greetings from the district governor at the end of our meeting, but don't want to take up time from the program. So, Mr. Roseman,
Yes.
would you please introduce our
Yes, I
program?
will. Yes. Again, I apologize to Mr. Aaron, our guest today, for my being late, of course, of all days, but nevertheless, we're here. So, Steve Aaron, Salvation Army, our club is supported through bell ringing and other, I'm sure in the past prior to my joining. So he's going to talk to us today, and he's also a close friend of Ron, so he's going to talk to us today about the Salvation Army. So Steve, I invite you to come on. You can stand there, stand up here, however you want to do it, whatever makes you comfortable. Appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to come over today. Actually, in my civic club history, I actually was Rotarian for 2 years in Madison, North Carolina from 1975 to 77, and then got involved as a volunteer fireman for the next 10 years. We met same nights, so I had to drop out of the Rotary, and now I've spent the last 30 years as a Kiwanian here in Hickory. But it is a pleasure to be here this morning and share a little bit with you about the Salvation Army. I'm going to kind of just give a couple of historical facts. For example, did you know that the Salvation Army was organized in 1865? It's 153 years old this year. You know, you stop and think about all the various organizations that are out here in society today trying to meet some of the needs that people who are in need have, and the Army by far is the oldest. It's got a lot of experience. It was founded in London, England by I guess a Methodist preacher who wasn't happy about what was happening in society during those days with the poor people being neglected. Today, the Salvation Army's flag flies in 128 countries in the world. They're on every continent except Antarctica. And so it isn't just in Europe or in the United States, they're everywhere. And the mission statement of the Salvation Army is to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and to meet human needs in His name without discrimination. So it is a church. I mean, a lot of people do not realize that the Salvation Army is an organized church. And the officers who are assigned to come and rotate in like Methodist preachers are trained in college. They graduate, become ordained ministers, and they also provide the leadership in the respective corps wherever they're assigned. William Booth, you had your Rotary magazine. Well, the Salvation Army also has a magazine called The War Cry, an international magazine. And William Booth, I chose a quote. You might wonder why this became an army. And you have to think about the history. In 1865, the Civil War had just ended in the United States, and there were other places in the world that there were a lot of wars going on. And so I guess it was natural. He said, this is a quote from William Booth that founded it. It said, "What a strong name. What does it mean? Just what it says. A number of people joined together after the fashion of an army, and therefore it is an army, and an army for the purpose of carrying salvation through the land. It is neither more nor less than that. If it be wise and lawful and desirable for man to be banded together and organized after the best method possible to liberate an enslaved nation, establish it in liberty and overcome its foes, then surely it must be wise and lawful and desirable for the people of God to join themselves together after the fashion most effective and forcible to liberate a captive world and to overcome the enemies of God and man." So, when he organized the Salvation Army, he just chose to call it an army. And of course, and because of that, all the officers in the Salvation Army, they're either lieutenants, captains, majors, lieutenant colonels. There's only one general. That person serves in an international office in London, England. And of course, every 4 years or something, they'll elect a new officer. So that is just a little bit of the history of the Salvation Army. I want to share with you a little bit about what the Army is here. Did you know that the Salvation Army came to Hickory in 1925? It's been here 93 years in existence. How many of you have had the opportunity to come onto the campus of the Salvation Army over here on LR Boulevard? Okay, certainly. It is amazing that a lot of people do not realize what resources are out there. If you turn onto that campus, it's a 19.5 acres. There's 5 buildings that located there. The value of those buildings is probably, on the tax books, is some north of $3 million. And I guess the thing I was impressed after retiring from banking and going to work for the Army as their development director, I realized that all of that is possible because of the generosity of this community. The Army just doesn't have resources. It goes and builds buildings or whatever. Whenever they want to start a new program, they go to the community, and the community makes it possible. So if you go onto that campus, this is what you'll find. You find, of course, the family store that's out on LR Boulevard. Right behind it, you'll find the Shelter of Hope. It's an 84-bed homeless shelter for men, women, and children. Then across the street from that, you'll find a transitional housing. And I'm going to talk about some of these programs in a second. If you go to the bottom of the hill, you have a Boys and Girls Club. You have the administration office. The Hickory Corps is a 9-county region administered out of Hickory. We go all the way to Ashe County, West Jefferson and Jefferson, 90 miles away. Is how big of an area that we administer. We have a worship center. Like I said, it is a church, and so they have about 150 members of that church. But every Sunday morning, a lot of the people that are in the homeless shelter come down for worship services, and of course on Wednesday nights too. We have a crisis help center. This is where caseworkers meet clients who need food, clothing, power bills, rent, furniture, whatever, who need assistance. And then we have a warehouse there that is a support facility for 10 family stores that we operate out of the Hickory region. And they're scattered into different counties in the 9 counties. What I'd like to do is just to share with you a little bit about 2 of the most active programs and to give you a chance to ask a few questions. I mentioned the homeless shelter. We've had a homeless shelter on that campus for way more than 40 years, but the current homeless shelter was opened in 2001. So it's now been in use for 17 years. In that time, we've had over 6,000 different men, women, and children who have spent time in that shelter. In that time, we have served more than 600,000 meals as part of the program there. The homeless shelter, it is an emergency shelter, which means that people can check in at 3:30 in the afternoon, and they have to check out by 9 o'clock in the morning. So it's a 6.5 hour time frame that they are not on campus. And that is by intent. The federal government will help support emergency shelters. They do not support 24-hour-a-day shelters at all. And I'll be honest with you, after having the opportunity to work with these programs over the years, you know, having a place that somebody can sit around and watch TV and do things 24 hours a day isn't helping them at all. You know, you're hoping that in that 6.5 hour time frame that they're out looking for a job or they're out doing something that improves their lives a little bit. And then we serve the meals. We serve breakfast at the shelter, and we serve dinner. The soup kitchen serves lunch. You know, that's one of the things. We don't duplicate services here in the community and waste the community's money. The soup kitchen provides a great meal. There's no need for us to be doing something at lunch. Generally, the stay at the shelter is around 90 days maximum, unless the person is working with our caseworker. They're almost ready to move into permanent housing and so forth. Then they can stay a little longer. Last year, our ratio was that 48% of the people who came into the shelter found permanent housing. The other 52%, unfortunately, kind of rotate around. There are people there that will come and stay 90 days in our shelter. They'll move somewhere else to another county and spend 90 days in their shelter. I mean, it's a way of life for some of these people. And it's a sad thing about that, but I can certainly tell you that where we are today, the homeless is not going to go away. I mean, it's becoming a bigger problem, and it's being driven by 3 things, or 2 things basically: addiction, drugs and alcohol, and mental illness. You know, our society today basically finds it more convenient to put people out on the street than to find some way of permanently treating people who are suffering through mental problems. And so if you wonder about these people that are camping out in the woods, I know we just recently had a forum with the police department in the city and here on the LR campus, and there were over 200 people that came in for that 3-hour session and to listen to what was being said. And there were a lot of great comments made, and we certainly hope we're making some progress there. But I will tell you that the homeless it's a big job. Now let me tell you what the other big job is. It costs the Salvation Army $680,000 a year to run the homeless program. You know, that money doesn't just appear from nowhere. You know, we have to find it somewhere to run that program. The other program I want to talk to you about is the Boys and Girls Club. For 26 years on the campus over there, 26 years ago, the Salvation Army and the Boys and Girls Club of America formed a partnership. And basically what it was is the Army had the facilities, the Boys and Girls Club of America had the programs. And so they kind of went together, and so for the last 26 years on the campus there, we have game rooms, gyms, playgrounds. We have great programs over there, and every day for the after-school program, we send buses to 14 schools right now and pick up kids, bring them into the campus, and they come in and they have snack, they work on their homework for 1 hour, and then they play until the parents come and pick them up. We run a summer camp program that, well, let me back up and say, we do all of that. The fee is $12.50 a week. That's all the parent has to pay. If the parents can't pay the $12.50 a week, they still can come. The summer camp program has a 12-hour day, 6 a.m., 6 p.m., 10 weeks. Parents drop them off. They get their lunch. They get their snacks, they get the activities that are planned, whether it's a skating rink or the swimming pool or the movie theater or whatever. And the fee for that is $75 a week. And again, what we try very hard to do is make sure that we have some scholarship money available for parents who can't afford that. Now, I don't know if many of you are aware of what a typical after-school program is, around $50 a week. Even if the kids stay on campus, wherever the school is. In the summertime, it's about $110 to $150 a week for the average. So, you know, we are really proud of the programs we have over there. You know, let me just say that the Boys and Girls Club program costs about $360,000 a year to run. Now I'm going to just tell you just briefly where we get our funding. You mentioned the kettles. Well, honestly, the red kettles, the last year in Catawba County, we did $241,000. That's what we collect in the kettles in Catawba County. In the 9 counties that we operate in, it was around $460,000. So some of these counties are much smaller, and the amount of revenue they generate. We get mail appeal. We have a lot of people who send the Salvation Army a check every couple of months or whatever. That amounts to about $700,000 a year that we get from mail appeal donations. We get grants that we write. The United Way programs about $92,000 a year from Catawba County's United Way. You know, and the fees we collect, as I mentioned. But, so it's always a struggle to raise money. That's the reason they have somebody like me there that, at development, we run some programs like the Boys and Girls Club's having a golf tournament later this month. You know, we'll make maybe $15,000 off the tournament, you know. So we do different things to generate funding. I want to just basically stop here. I don't know when you guys need to get out, but I want to just throw this thing out for questions. You know, I actually served on the board for 12 years before retiring and then taking this role. I can tell you that of all the organizations I've worked with over the years, you know, this Salvation Army is more dedicated, more diligent to make sure that they put as much of every dollar out into the programs. They don't waste it in overhead and things like this. And, you know, for example, the officers, Captain and Tim and Bethany Delaney right now, their salary is about $15,000 a year each. Of course, they're provided a parsonage, or it's called a quarters, just like the Methodist Church provides a parsonage for their minister. So they get a lot of the basics provided. But when they leave here, in probably another year, they won't be driving their own car. They don't own any cars. You get them transported to the next command, and they pick up the vehicles that are owned by that local corps. And but anyway, let me throw it out to the question. Just
Rotary in the district and Rotary in this club, along with Veterans Helping Veterans, have been trying for the last 5 or 6 years to get a similar program that exists in Asheville that takes homeless veterans, schools them, grows them, deals with their addictions, deals with their life crises, and gives them housing until such time as they land on their feet. Frankly, we have been getting pushback trying to get that established in this area by virtue of the fact that someone from the Salvation Army says, that's not necessary, we take care of those needs. What can we do to cooperate with the Salvation Army to get a supportive partner to get some proper housing and care and growth for veterans in this area?
okay. Well, let me first say, the Salvation Army has an adult recovery center in Charlotte. It's a pretty large facility, and we send people from here to Charlotte. It's a 6-month program. It's free. Anybody who wants to make an effort to get off alcohol and drugs, they can go there. But to answer your question, trying to address, you're talking about specifically just veterans.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I will tell you that I went down to the VA office in Salisbury a few years ago when we opened our transitional housing program. We have a building on campus that right now it houses just men, and what we're dealing with is people who are coming out of prison who have a job. A lot of Hickory Springs people and different things, they hire them, but they don't have a place to live. We provide a place for up to 2 years there for the people to stay. We went down and talked to the government, the VA, about setting aside a certain number of beds in that facility. And I'll be honest with you, they were willing to pay us up to $275,000 a year to provide those 5 beds that they were wanting to provide. But in order to do that, you had to sell your soul to the devil. Basically, the government started telling you how to run your programs. You know, they told us that if we did this, there would be a bus with about 20 different people that would come out and inspect this, inspect that, sign off on this, sign off on that. And you know, at the end of the day, we just looked at it and said, no way. And I was one part of look at that. But, so I guess we're not, I would just say that for the local officers, and that was a different officer then than there is here now. But it all comes down to resources. Where if we try to do that, where do we get the funding? Yeah.
We're already hand in hand with that devil. Okay, they run part of the program up in Asheville. We need, you're the old saying, lead follower, get out of the way.
Yeah.
We have partners. We just need the obstacles spread just the least little bit. We'll walk through the crack. When we started Helping Veterans Homeless program in this county, the VA said to us, don't waste your time. There are no homeless. in Catawba County. We brought in 250, 60 of whom they've never had on their rolls, and we've corrected that. We're now out 10, 11, 12, 13 counties, okay?
Yeah.
And we bring in 200, 250, and they're, I'm exaggerating, 30, 20, 40, every year, a different number, that they still not fully engaged with. And we're correcting that, and they're accepting that. And they now send, what do they call, Rick? ROs, resource officers, to our club meetings, to our stand down, to reach the people we call in, okay? We simply need a place to land them, and we need the community area to join us.
I understand.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's all right. I have a story to share, if it's okay.
Sure.
When I was 12 years old, we were on welfare living in a housing project. First of the month, the check comes in. My mother gives it to me and tells me to take it down to the housing authority office to pay the rent. The check was $134. The rent was $35. I was supposed to bring $99 home. When I got to the office, the check was gone. I dropped it, lost it somehow on the way. I go back home, I'm crying, and my mother gets really angry. I jump back on my bike, I start taking off. My friend says, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm running away from home." So I'll go with you. And so we were on the north side of town, we got to the west side of town, didn't know where I was going. And all of a sudden, there's a Salvation Army right there. My friend and I got off our bikes, walked up the steps into the Salvation Army. We were greeted with hugs and warmth and shared the story. And the guy said, "Just relax, we'll take care of you." They fed us, they calmed us down. And when the guy realized I was okay at that point, he said, "Now it's time to call your mother." And so I called her, and 5 minutes after I had left, someone had found the check. And they had the address on the check. And he had returned it to her, so everything was okay. So I'll never forget how I was treated by the Salvation Army. And from that point on to this day, I contribute every year just because of how I was treated when I was 12 years old.
Right. Well, you hear stories, yes, Ron?
Well, I wanted to say something about Steve before you finish. You already heard, Steve mentioned the salaries of their top people. So you know that Steve, and you'll read this in the bulletin next week, we got a club assembly, so Kenny can bring the bulletin and you can read a little bit more about Steve next week. But Steve was CEO of 2 different financial organizations in Hickory. So he didn't go to the Salvation Army because he needed money. So, and yet he's probably working more hours maybe than he did as a banker for the Salvation Army. And if you want to see somebody that works hard, check him out in November and December when it's kettle time, because he runs that program, and I want him to tell us what the growth of that has been over the last 5 years or so, because I know it's increased. But also I want to tell you that it hadn't been mentioned, you'll read it also about it. As a Kiwanian, Steve headed the effort to establish the Zara Baker Park. And if not been for him, that park wouldn't be there, I can tell you that, because he hit the ground, and he was probably responsible for at least half of the money himself that made that park possible. So he is one dedicated community guy that has a legacy here in 2 ways: what he's done for the Salvation Army and the Zara Baker Park.
Well, thank you, Ron. I moved to Hickory 32 years ago, and it became my home very quickly. I love Catawba County and Hickory, and I like the people I see. I meet every day. You know, it's we know that by joining together, whether you're Rotarian or Kiwanian or whatever, you know, we're all out there trying to make our community a better place to live. And you know, talking about the homeless issue and the veterans, you know, I think I will truly tell you that there's a willingness to do anything and everything, but sometimes the financial reality hits home as to how can we do this, and I will tell you that, you know, as much as we spend each year, I didn't mention our Crisis Help Center. They distribute somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000 to $500,000 a year out in assistance. So it takes a budget of almost $2 million a year just here in Catawba County to run these programs. And that's every year, you know, so, you know, again, I thank you for the opportunity. Any other questions?
I've got just, you're talking about the international side of things, and I'm from Scotland originally, and I can talk to that because I do think they're very well known there, and principally after soccer matches on a Saturday, when people are in the pub and they're already fairly well oiled, either because they won it or they lost or whatever, that's when the Sally Army would come round. Often the women, and with their collecting, and it took some courage to come in there when these people were in that mood, and they weren't always treated well. You know, people would make fun of them or that kind of stuff, but they'd also come out of there with quite a lot of money, which is why they did it. And I always admired them for that, and selling the war cry.
Yeah.
And the other thing we would do would be we'd have like brass bands, and they'd play outside. That's what they were known for. People put money in their hat.
Well, I would tell you, you mentioned the band. You know, the band is part of the Salvation Army. I mean, I guess it's just because of the Army, and it's all brass. And we just had 2 of our kids from the Boys and Girls Club and the local corps that was a part of the youth band that went to Italy over Easter. And they played for they were there 9 days and played in Rome and Florence and Piazza. But you know, it was a great opportunity for these kids to get a chance to do that. Ron's comment about the kettles, again, I want to thank you, this club. Every year we ask you to come out. A lot of people assume that we raise most of our money through volunteers, ring it like you do for us. The reality is only 26% of the money that we raise is by volunteers. The rest of it is paid ringers that we hire. But that's not a bad thing, because most of the people we hire are either in the homeless shelter or they don't have jobs because of, you know, they may be camping out in the woods, whatever. But they have an opportunity to make about, if they work the whole season, probably about $1,500. We pay them $8 an hour to get out there in the ring for a 6 to 8 hour shift. Last year, in the 9 counties, we manned 151 locations. And you stop and think about the logistics of getting bell ringers to that many locations every morning during the bell ringing season. And you know, it is a big job. And it starts at 6 a.m. and it ends at 10 o'clock at night, 6 days a week. But you're part of it, and we thank you for that. And I would like to end this thing by just simply extending an invitation. If you're ever over that way, you've never been on campus, come by the administration office, and I'll be glad to give you a tour.
That experience really is fulfilling, though. I can speak, I think, for everybody in the club that's done it. It feels good when you're there serving that way.
Steve, thank you very much for the program. Again, for you for speaking at our club.
All right.
Our very active Sergeant at Arms, Mr. Honeycutt, makes these for us.
Picture.
Picture. Oh, picture. Well, then we got to be handing it over.
Give it back.
This is on the one we've got.
You gotta give it to somebody next week.
You get the Budweiser coasters.
Thank you.
Steve?
Bye, Dr. Wimberly.
But what I'm counting on is because you can understand that we can maybe get some roadblocks.
Oh, I do.
Just a slight add-on to that. A number of the downtown churches in the wintertime.
Wait a minute, pay $1.
In the wintertime, when the temperatures are going to be below freezing, help out with warming centers in addition